Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 1st of May, now it's 12:30, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for today, in which I will share all the latest news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages for this moment. A second update will be later on the Patreon, as I usually do, and on the Patreon I will also share video footage that we made yesterday, me and my family, yesterday in Moscow. I hope Patreon subscribers will find it interesting. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, let me congratulate all everyone that celebrates today on 1st of May, holiday of spring and labor. In Russia, this day is a celebration. So I congratulate everyone. And when it comes to news, as I said, there are quite a few very significant developments, and I will start with reports about terror strikes on Russian energo and logistical infrastructure by Zelensky's regime in Leningrad region. In Leningrad, the region power lines were targeted, and let me read it for you. This is my Telegram channel, and I did share information there already. So in the Leningrad region, a power line pole was blown up. So according to RIA Novosti, in the Leningrad region, power line pole was blown up, said the governor of the region, Alexander Trozdenko. In addition, another explosive device was allegedly found at another power line support pole. At the same time, the power supply was not interrupted. This governor of the region said. So this is one episode of terror attack, and the second episode was in Bryansk region, and I did also share information about this strike, and let me read it for you. So an explosive device went off on the railway tracks in the Bryansk region. This is also RIA Novosti's report. So locomotive derailed in the Bryansk region due to an explosive device that went off on the tracks, the region's governor Alexander Bogomaz said in his Telegram channel. So according to him, unidentified explosive device went off in the Unechsky district at 136 kilometers of Bryansk-Unech railway, as a result of which freight train's locomotive derailed. There were no casualties, he wrote. So as we can see, these terror strikes happened this morning. One may say it's some kind of coordinated attack. I don't know really, but when I was reading this news, I was thinking to myself that maybe it's inevitable now that Ukrainian terrorism will become a part of, for a significant amount of time, will become a part of our life, not just in Russia, but also in Europe. Also, because Zelensky and his top political or military leaders may escape Ukraine and find the same heaven somewhere in the West or in Israel, let's say. But terrorists that are conducting operations, terror strikes, they may find themselves as a leftover, and they will try to conduct terror attacks not just against Russia, but quite possibly in Europe also. And recent terror attack in Cyprus, when Russian cultural center was targeted by Ukro-Nazi terrorists, at least partially confirming this possibility of this kind of developments. So unfortunately, Ukrainian terrorism probably will be part of our lives in Russia and in Europe for a foreseeable future. Let's continue with the news. And during the previous night, Russian side did conduct some missile strikes on Zelensky's military infrastructure of Zelensky's regime, military and logistical infrastructure of Zelensky's regime. And by the way, military summary channel, military summary, just a few minutes ago made a short update, which was mainly about this strike, and I will recommend you to. I did share a link on my Telegram channel, so I will recommend you to see that video, because he is in details explaining direction of missile strikes and possible reasoning behind it. So I will just mention that Ukrainian side, as always, did stated that they did shut down almost all Russian missiles, but in reality, this is not the case, and I believe, and military summary did confirm this information is in his report, that Zelensky's regime did lost even more air defense systems during previous Russian strike, so that in foreseeable future, if that's the case, in coming weeks and months, we will probably see even more activization of Russian frontline aviation and maybe even strategic bombers over the Ukraine. Right now, Russian strategic bombers are launching missiles from far away. But if Russian forces manage to basically decimate Ukraine's air defense systems, then we may see 222 M bombers over the Ukrainian skies, and once it will happen, then we will definitely know that Ukraine lost air defense. Not Ukraine, Zelensky's Nazi regime, let me say this way. So let's continue, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which, and by the way, when it comes to Russian missile strike, let me give you some more information. So according to data that we have now, explosions were heard in Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk region, Sumy region, Pavlograd, Kharkov region, and the Ivano-Frankovsk region. So missile strike was quite large. And as I understand, many missiles did reach their target. So let me continue now. This is TASS News Agency's report, according to which head of Ukrainian ground forces, General Syrsky, once again made statement about situation in Bakhmut, and he said that Ukrainian forces are in difficult position in Bakhmut. Basically, he did confirm what we already know, but these kind of statements, once again, I take as a preparation of ground for inevitable, because it's only a matter of days and Bakhmut will be under full Russian control. Let me show you on the map. This area. So this is Bakhmut, by the way, and even this pro-Ukrainian map forced to recognize that under control of Zelensky's regime, basically is almost nothing is left in Bakhmut. Only a few high-rise buildings in this southwest part of the city, and I believe in coming days, PMC Wagner units will manage to establish control over this area, and once this will happen, I hardly doubt that Zelensky's regime will be able to hold on to these duchy areas here. Not duchy areas, but area that one or two floor private housing is located. And after that, I did say many times before in my previous updates that I believe Chisov Yar will become under full Russian control fairly soon. In 1 or 2 weeks' time, I believe Chisov Yar will be under Russian control also, and possibly even Konstantinovka. But for Chisov Yar, I'm absolutely sure that it will don't take long, and PMC Wagner units with support of Russian regular army will establish full control over the Chisov Yar. Maybe before, let's say, maybe before end of this month. Let's see. When it comes to overall situation on the ground, it's yet again usual stuff. Zelensky's regime did try to conduct missile strikes, and in direction of Melitopol. This is almost everyday occurrence lately. They are trying to target settlements on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. One may say in preparation of upcoming Ukrainian counteroffensive, maybe. When it comes to Kherson region, it's artillery duels. Zaporozhye region, also artillery duels. Donetsk direction is close fighting, close combat between the units, and here traditionally most hot points are Marinka and Ugledar. North of it, it's Bakhmut, of course, and then Seversk. Lately, Russian forces become a little bit less active in Seversk direction, and this is understandable. Here we have mainly artillery duels between the sides, but I believe once situation around Bakhmut and Chisovyar will resolve, Russian forces will try to encircle Seversk, or at least to take in operational encirclement. It's a logical next step, because after this, next defense line of Zelensky's regime, more or less capable defense line, is Kramatorsk-Slavyansk. So I believe somewhere in the middle of summer or in August, Russian forces will operate around Kramatorsk-Slavyansk, maybe even earlier than that. Because after anticipated by many, counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime will fail, and it will definitely fail. To be honest, if you ask me, I don't even believe that Zelensky's regime will be able to pull off large-scale counteroffensive, as I understand what is large-scale counteroffensive, when they are sending like tens and tens of thousands of forces in different directions, you know, and I mean, they just don't have enough manpower to conduct such operation. I just, you know, I do, of course, read these different articles about some 200 reserves, the 200,000 reserve force that Zelensky's regime has. Some reports say even about 400,000 reserves, but no, man, I just don't believe this for a second. Because if Zelensky's regime would have 400 or 200,000 reserves, they will not hunt on the male citizens of Ukraine on the streets of this failed state. And I did share so many times on my Telegram channel in how they are grabbing people on the streets to forcefully mobilize and send on the front line. So Zelensky's regime is desperate. I'm saying about it for I don't know how many months already, that they lack manpower. So they just physically will be unable to conduct large-scale counteroffensive operations, but they do have from let's say 50 to 80,000 reserve force in direction of Zaporozhye and the Kherson regions, and they can try to conduct some offensive operations with what they have. And 50 or 80,000 soldiers is definitely not enough to conduct any large-scale counteroffensive, for God's sake, especially when they have to go through Russian defense lines. So that's why I'm saying that they will definitely take place some offensive operations from Zelensky's regime somewhere in, I don't know, in next few weeks. But I don't believe they will be able to achieve any success whatsoever. And I definitely don't believe that these offensive operations will have a large scale. No. I just don't believe this, man. They don't have manpower to do so. And 50 and 80,000 soldiers are not enough to, let's say, attack all the way from Kherson region to Zaporozhye region and up to Donetsk here, Donetsk region or DPR. 50 or 80,000 soldiers, yes, it's enough to try to establish some bridgehead, let's say, from Orekhov, for example. And before Russian side will manage to neutralize these offensive forces, they may establish some control for some short time over some areas here, up to Tokmak even. And then what? They will be destroyed, and then that's it. And after that, entire defense line of Zelensky's regime all along the front line will collapse, because they will be, this is last reserves of Zelensky's regime, and they will have no reserves no more. and basically Russian side will be able to conduct offensive operations on its own now. So that's my take on it. I'm not military expert, but I mean, when I see numbers, I mean, numbers just don't add up. You know, to conduct large-scale counteroffensive in Zaporozhye region, to cut this land bridge, Zelensky's regime need at least 150 to 200,000 soldiers, at least. And they don't have this. They just don't have such a manpower. That's it. But yet again, let's wait and see what will happen. You know, but as I said, I'm not military expert, and my take on this thing maybe, I mean, mistaken. I don't know. I'm just trying to analyze information that I see in open sources. So let me continue now, and this is quite interesting. RBK news agency is reporting that head of Catholic Church makes statements that he's playing some role to push peace negotiations when it comes to Ukrainian conflict. There is no detailed information in which way head of Catholic Church is involved in this process, but if he's saying that he's playing some role to somehow bring sides to, you know, peace negotiations, you know, I have no reason to not believe. I mean, probably this is true, and after all, head of Catholic Church is one of the most powerful men in this world. So when he's talking about anything, really, I mean, the world is listening. So probably he is involved in some ways, but yet again, before Washington and London will not say to Kiev, it's time to conduct some peace talks, Zelensky's regime will have no right to talk to Russian side. Simple as that. Let me continue, and this is quite interesting. RT is reporting that Ukraine condemns EU and Poland over trade restrictions. Lately, probably because everyone in Europe, at least in Europe, they do understand now that it's only a matter of time and Zelensky's regime will be crushed. They becoming more and more active in terms of protecting their own interests. I'm talking about especially Eastern European states, and recently Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, they did make some steps that was definitely not in favor of Ukraine and Ukraine's current government. And this is understandable. I believe in coming weeks and months, Warsaw will take even stronger positions when it comes to Zelensky's regime, because Warsaw, Polish elites do need to prepare ground now for open involvement in this conflict, to establish control over the western parts of Ukraine that was part of Poland before Second World War. So for me, all this stuff is quite logical and expectable. So nothing surprising. And when it comes to Ukraine's protest, I mean, who cares, man, about Zelensky and his henchmen, man, really? No one cares about them and their positions, because those puppets have been used and will be used as long as they are in any way useful for the West. But time is running out for them, that's for sure. And let me continue. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which Zakharova did condemn Polish actions of Polish government in, yesterday. As you know, Polish officials and police did break into Russian school that are open in cooperation of Russian embassy with Russian embassy, and they forced basically this school to be closed, and many people did forcefully evacuated from this building, I believe, and Moscow did protests about this. As I understand, the school will be reopened in a few days' time, but of course, in Russia, society didn't like what happened, and I believe society in Russia, Russian public, is getting closer to a point when it's only a few steps next, and the public will be radicalized very much, and Moscow will be forced to conduct some truly. Moscow just will be forced to listen to public, because people really fed up. I mean, more and more people fed up in Russia with these actions of Western elites, and that's why probably Zakharova was forced to talk about possibility of breaking diplomatic ties with Poland, and she said that this will harm this kind of step. I mean, to just break any diplomatic relationships with Poland will just harm Russian citizens that are in Poland, because they do need periodically support of embassy. But once again, these kind of statements and even topic does indicates that Moscow is, Moscow is, how should I say, Moscow is watching mood of Russian society, and they are seeing that public is getting more and more tired, that Western elites are acting extremely aggressively, and Moscow conducts itself too politely, let's say this way. And that's why more and more Russian officials are coming out and are trying to explain why this kind of aggressive step or this kind of aggressive step may not be as useful as some may think. And in this case, I will definitely agree with Zakharova, because I mean, to stop any diplomatic relationships with Poland, I don't think it will help anybody really. Minimize diplomatic presentation of yourself, your country in Poland, and that's it really. But to entirely, I mean, break ties, I don't think that's gonna help anybody. But yet again, man, this kind of information truly highlights mood in Russian public, and as I said, many people are truly becoming radicalized by actions of Western elites, and many people are not quite happy that Russian side is still trying to place diplomatically. It just doesn't work for in opinion of many. But yet again, we ordinary people don't really have as much information that they have in governments, so they probably have some reasoning behind the steps, isn't it? So it's easy to criticize, but you also always should keep in mind that you just objectively don't have information that they have, because you don't have reach to classify the information they have. Let me continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which Western countries are now more and more worrying about readiness of Ukrainian armed forces to conduct counteroffensive. To be honest, I mean, this information at least partially confirming my take on possibility of Ukrainian counteroffensive. Of course, Western elites do know that Zelensky's regime don't have enough manpower. They knew it, because they knew everything that is happening in Ukraine. They are basically running Ukraine, and Zelensky is only their puppet, Zelensky or some other his henchmen. And of course, they are not just worried that but they obviously know that Zelensky's counteroffensive will fail. Large scale, small scale, whatever it is going to be, it will fail. And some European countries should be prepared for possible consequences of that, because after this counteroffensive will fail, and I believe this counteroffensive will be local scale, not large scale counteroffensive. But whatever it is, when it fails, and once Ukrainian armed forces will start to collapse all the way on the front line, then probably we will see open involvement of Poland and some other countries that want to establish control over the western parts of Europe, and yes, picture will change drastically at that point. So yes, European elites and Western elites do have reasons to be worried, because maybe they think they are controlling everything, and fail of Zelensky's regime will be also controlled. But who knows? Who knows? Will the European states be able to, let's say, contain Ukrainian Nazi units inside Ukraine? And I don't know. And these units may cross border. They may say that, you know what, NATO did put radars, and let them pay now. And they may conduct, as I said, they may begin striking in Europe. And that's why I said in the beginning of this update that Ukrainian terrorism probably will become a part of our life in Russia and in Europe for a foreseeable future. And let me continue. This is also TASS News Agency's report, according to which OPEC plus countries did start reducing the oil input on the world market, and overall 1.66 million barrel a day will be, reduction will be on a level of 1.66 million barrels a day, which is quite significant. And I believe this is done to just make sure that prices on oil are in acceptable for oil producers, on acceptable levels for oil producers nations. And yes, if it's necessary, then we may see even more reduction of oil input on the world market. It's quite obvious, really. But this step from OPEC once again demonstrates attitude of first of all states in kingdoms in Middle East, Saudi Arabia first of all, because US probably will be happy to see increase of oil production and reduction of prices on oil. But as you can see, Saudi Arabia is no longer play by Washington's rules, and this is significant. This is definitely significant. Not just that, but I mean, in quite a few years' time, I believe we may even see some Chinese military bases in Saudi Arabia, and I won't be surprised, because in Djibouti, for example, on the Red Sea, China already has military base, and in the same country, US has military base. So this kind of development may occur in Saudi Arabia also. Why not? Because we are clearly seeing that Saudi Arabia is changing its foreign policy quite drastically. And if in previous decades Washington was a main, let's say, anchor for Saudi Arabia for its safety and stability, nowadays things are changing, and Riyadh may find that China may provide even more stability and safety, especially because China has excellent relationships with Iran. So who knows, man? Let's see. And this is also interesting information, according to which Germany is beginning to reopen shafts that were closed decades ago to somehow minimize its dependence on imports. And in this case, we are talking about some rare materials, which is important for production of electro cars. But when I was reading this information, I was thinking to myself, just recently, Germany did shut down its last nuclear reactors. They are left without nuclear power now. And if they are starting to reopen shafts to, somehow minimize the dependence on foreign imports when it comes to rare earth materials, one day we may see that they are also reopening shafts to dig some coal, to power some coal plants. Who knows, man? Who knows? Because I will never believe that Germany, with its climate, will ever be able to go entirely green, man. It's just, we are talking about Germany, man. Industrial monster, at least for now. Still. Industrial monster, main economy of Europe, which is, left without sustainable energy sources, because, nuclear is probably more green than this sun, these sun panels that are creating energy from sunlight. Because after some time you have to recycle this whatever that called, man. And it's made almost entirely made from plastic. And now they're gonna say plastic is not harmful for earth or what? For previous decade, they were always saying that plastic is is bad and all that stuff. So yes, man, I'm not expert in this field, but when I was reading this news, I was truly thinking, what? One day they may open coal shafts also, because they will need some energy, and they will definitely won't be able to go entirely green. Not Germany, man. Spain maybe, because it's sunlight. They have a vast coastal line, and they may use tide waves to generate some electricity, and they may use sunlight, most important, and wind also. But in Germany, yes, they can use a coastal line. They can use some wind next to coast, but there is not that much sun in Germany, really. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But when I see this information, I was thinking, yes. Thanks to current crazy government that they have, they are now reopening shafts that were shut down for decades and decades. And this news is gonna be the last one. India and Russia is considering to accept payments by RuPay, that's Indian payment system, and the Mir, which is a Russian payment system. So if this will work, and if sides will achieve agreement, this will be great, and for two sides first of all, and this will be once again one more indicator that world is moving away in quite rapid pace from Western banking system and Western payment systems, and from Western currencies, basically from dollar and euro. And this is trend which cannot be stopped now. This is just a trend that cannot be stopped now, and in I believe 5, 10, 15 years time, Dollar no longer will be main world reserve currency, and Swift or some other Western transaction or banking systems will no longer play any crucial role in this world, because there will be some alternatives developed in the rest of the world, which is much bigger than Western countries combined. So this is it for now. I hope you will find this video interesting. I little bit get lost when I was talking about this news about Germany and then energo stuff. But anyway, I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like. If you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on your Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, or any other account that you are active on. And if you find this channel interesting, useful, and if you think this channel deserves to exist, then please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. So yes, this is it. First video for this week. I wish you a great and successful week, and take care. See you soon.